Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again today. My name is Emma Land. I'm a counselor here at Williamsville Wellness. And today I'm joined by
Ken Jones.
Kenny is here today, and we're going to talk a little bit about addiction and the development of addiction. Kenny, give the listeners a little background on you, how you got to Williamsville, how you got involved in this field, what this means to you, all that stuff.
Okay, I'll try to make this a short story. So, I'm in recovery. I've been in recovery for about 30 years now. Um, Prior to coming here, I worked in construction. I also worked in like social work. And of course, substance abuse fields or agencies here and there over the years. I ended up here about 14 years ago. Um, through a friend who knew the owner of this place, Bob Cavaniss, and me and Bob hit it off, and I've been here since then as a peer counselor, also as a CSAC and a life coach. So, um, I just brought my experience to the table, talking about like my story, talking about what I know about addiction and how it develops and how it affects people, how it affects families. Um, I have a video on YouTube called "The Disease of Addiction" by Kitty Jones. It's a little outdated, but it still makes perfect sense to family members who had no idea about what addiction is and how it progresses. So that video helps them out a lot. Um, and that video pretty much talks about addiction, like being a whole list of things, not just using.
Yeah.
Like using is only 10% of the issue. The other 90% is like personality traits, mental health, a whole bundle of fears that we've been dealing with all our lives. Um, and how those things affect our esteem, our confidence, our self-worth, and our perspective. So all of that stuff, including a little bit of denial, makes up the disease of addiction. The using, whatever it is, just a personal preference, whether it's drugs, alcohol, gambling, sex, food, whatever,
Yeah.
it's only 10% of the issue.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, and then also like the family members of people who come into treatment, really just come in with the mindset sometimes of, oh, well, just stop drinking, just stop using, just stop gambling, just stop whatever you want to insert there. And when that's the mindset, it like is so limiting for the growth that needs to happen for like the long-term recovery to actually progress, change, move, whatever you will. And how, so when you, because usually, we've got you meeting with somebody on their first or second day, depending on if you're here that day. How do you start that conversation with somebody who walks in your office and is like, I just need to stop drinking? Like, where do you take it from there?
Um, on the first day, I don't really like challenge that idea
Yeah.
because that's a good start.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
Quitting whatever it is a really good start. Staying stopped is what we're showing people how to do. And that's what recovery does for people. It shows them how to stay stopped. Recovery also shows people how not to substitute, right? So if my mindset is I'm just going to quit drinking and I think that that's going to be my recovery, the muscle memory that I've created through dopamine and some other things in the brain says, hey, okay, well, let's not drink. Let's do this thing.
Yeah.
And if I'm not careful, this thing becomes my new obsession. And so recovery helps us recognize these things happening so that
Right.
we have a choice.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, like, choice is our greatest asset. Addiction robs us of that choice. And that's why we get stuck. Even when we don't want to do this, we end up doing it for years and years and years.
Right. Yeah. The fears that you mentioned earlier that we develop throughout our lifespan take that choice away. Like fear is the robbery of choice, autonomy,
Yes.
any sense of control,
Yep. So there's a whole list of fears. Like for a lot of people, addiction has become their blanket or the security blanket. It's the way they deal with life. So when they come here, we tell them, hey, you got to get rid of that. It's like it's terrifying because it's like, now what am I going to do? How am I going to deal with my emotions and deal with people and deal with life on life terms? They have no idea how to do that, and they don't quite trust the skills that we're teaching them or recover yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point because it's like this expose. We take it all away from you and it's like what do I do now? I don't know how to deal with this, how to confront my emotions, how to look at my fears, look at my past. And because, up until this point, addiction is lack of trust in self, lack of boundaries too. So I haven't been able to trust myself up to this point. Now I'm supposed to not rely on this thing and figure out how to trust me. I have no idea how to do that. I've never done it before.
It's terrifying. Yeah. Yeah. And so muscle memory takes over, self-preservation kicks in. And so the muscle memory says, let's do what we used to do, is because even though I know by now it doesn't work, I still kind of believe in it.
Yeah.
I trust that. I trust the consequences, right? Whereas I have no idea what 3 C's is going to get me.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're like, big eyes with people about my fears. I don't know what that's going to do for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's even though I know it's chaotic at the end, I at least know that, where I don't know the opposite. Even if there could be this promised land waiting for me.
Yeah.
I don't know that because I'm so used to the chaos. So I'd rather stay in my predictable, even though it's ruining my life, it's killing me inside, than try this other thing because there's a chance that it's not going to be all that it's cramped up to be. Yeah. How do you feel like when you first entered into recovery, you wrestled with that, like having to look deeper within to start to sort out some of those fears, and what was happening for you?
So, like every person coming into recovery comes in different.
Yeah.
Right? Their level of motivation, their level of desperation, or their gift of desperation, um, and the self-preservation. There's a whole list of things that play a part in that. And I know when I got here, I was completely ready and desperate,
Yeah.
which was a complete gift for me. And I was willing to do whatever people said do, and I did just that. So even though I didn't quite believe in all the things that people were telling me, I had heard those things before, right? And for most of us coming into recovery, the stuff that we're learning in treatment and stuff we're learning in therapy, it's not foreign. It's like our grandparents told us some of these things. You know what I mean? This is really just about good values and how to be reliable and dependable.
Right.
And so those things I tried to avoid growing up, and it got me, high.
Yeah.
And so coming into recovery, I had to return back to those things. You know what I mean? So it wasn't that foreign, learning how to trust people, because my way was completely a train wreck.
Yeah.
And so coming into meetings and listening to people tell their stories and give me suggestions, yeah, I was all for it, because my way got me broke, got me homeless, yeah, completely destroyed.
Yeah. And I would imagine, like, in that process, there's a wrestle with pride a little bit too.
So again, the gift of desperation.
Yeah. It's like tell Brian to shut up. We lost her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for like it being in this field now for a while and dealing with a lot of people who haven't quite had that yet, and they're still wrestling with their pride, and they still think their way is better than what they're learning here. I'm scared for those folks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they're really not ready to take on a whole new lifestyle or change all the things, right? And to stay here, we need to change all the things: people, places, things, times of day, behaviors, attitudes, and outlooks. And so for a lot of people that I've come across lately, they just want to stop using. They don't want to change those other things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's recognizing the way all those things have developed over our life are what got us here. And if that stays the same,
Yeah.
then how do I expect to move in a different way? If nothing about what developed me to be sitting here is different when I leave. Yeah. Yeah. When you're talking with someone about, reaching into their past, looking at things that could have developed into how they've coped with their struggles now, what do you find to be the most helpful in looking at your past? Like,
Childhood development.
Yeah.
Like the early years, when the biggest influence in our life was our parents, right? And this is by no means like a slight on parents.
yeah,
Parents just don't get a book on how to be parents.
right.
So parents tend to fly by the seat of their pants or do what their parents did,
Yeah.
right? And some of that stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not good or bad, right?
Right.
But And I know, thinking about my own childhood, my grandmother, if she had lived by the philosophy out of sight, out of mind, right? And so a lot of parents feel that way. If the kid's not bugging me, it's all good.
Yeah.
But if that kid is isolating, right, or hiding and not dealing with their reality, they're setting themselves up for addiction. And parents never see that coming. And parents, even the parents we deal with today, want to believe that they have addiction because some traumatic thing happened.
Yeah.
Right? And yes, trauma has a lot to do with some people, but not everybody has trauma.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so kids who start to change their realities, right, or lie to themselves about their realities, and all kids do,
Yeah.
because they don't know how to like express those emotions or express those thoughts. So they create something that soothes them, right? But in the process of that, they're isolating, hiding, and withdrawing. And these are maladaptive coping skills that over time turn into more maladaptive coping, eventually an addiction of some kind.
Yeah. Yeah. And that isolation hiding, it's like a self-directed sense of shame because when we're younger, our stage of development is so concrete that we can't understand like more complex ideas that other people have stuff going on and that's why they ignore me, treat me that way, blah, 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 blah. It all feels like it's about us. Like we're the center of our world and as a child. So dad sits in the basement, drinks beer, won't talk to me, isn't interested in me. What must be something I did? I'm bad. I'm the reason that they don't show up or that they don't listen or that they don't blah, 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 blah. And it's like when that gets solidified, I just always grow up believing that I am bad, the problem, not good enough, whatever you want to put there. Yeah. Yeah. How do you begin that work of moving out of that development, like having to take responsibility as an adult for what lacked in your childhood?
So how is a great question, right? I tell people all the time, if how is the question, how is also the answer. How is an acronym for honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, which also introduces a process. It introduces a process of us being the captain of our own ship,
Yeah.
right? Now, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. Honesty in the recovery process, honesty gives us a choice. That is the freedom of being truthful,
Yeah.
having a choice. Our open-mindedness allows us to see that we have help along the way, whether it's therapy, meetings, psychologists, doctors, family, whomever. We don't have to do this by ourselves. Willingness is about putting any one of those resources into action.
Yeah.
And so as we do this in this process, we learn how to trust ourselves. We learn how to love ourselves. We learn how to trust other people. We also learn a lot of humility and being able to say when we're scared and when we don't know how to do something, will you help me?
Yeah.
Because prior to all this, we did just the opposite. We lied to ourselves. We were closed-minded and weren't very willing to like get outside of that box and try anything different. Even though what I was doing was killing me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all those things I'm doing to myself, I'm doing to everyone else too. So to be able to do any of the how, honesty, open mindedness, willingness to others to seek help, connection, like true, authentic connection and help and support, I have to start here. If I start here, it's ingenuine. It's not going to go very far.
Right.
Yeah. Um, what would you say is something that got you like to continue on? Like, let me rephrase that too of you've done all this, you were desperate, you were willing, you were like, I had nothing to lose, I've got to try it this way. What kept you going after you just started listening?
So motivation is what you're asking me. So in the beginning, self-preservation was the motivation, right? Over the years, it's been a number of things like donuts, coffee, getting out of the cold, going to a warm room. The girl that smiled at me yesterday, I want to see her again today. Um, but the biggest motivator has been the results that I've been getting, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's not enough time to tell you all the blessings that I've got over the years of being in recovery. And I'm not just talking about like monetary gain or possessions, right? Like the inner growth is just it's just unmeasurable, right?
Yeah.
Compared to who I was when I got here. Um, like I now feel wealthy on the side, whereas before I felt completely broke. Yeah. And then I feel like wealthy in a sense that if I was to lose my job and all my stuff, I feel like I would be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, purpose stops being noun words and it starts just being a way of living.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the midst, like, let's say the times throughout, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, like you have hit struggles, rough patches, whatnot. How does all that has gained translate in those moments when you are struggling or just going through some tough stuff?
Say that again.
Like how does that translate the positivity, the growth, the wealth you feel about life now?
Okay. So my gratitude speaks when I care and when I share with others. Right.
Yeah.
And so for me over the years, that's gone beyond like just in this field.
Yeah.
It's a part of my neighborhood. It's a part of my community. It's a part of my family. It's just a part of society now.
Yeah.
Right. I don't just take this to meetings. I don't just take this to work. It's like it's my everyday with whomever's path I cross. And yeah, and I'm truly grateful. So when I get those opportunities, I try not to shy away from them or, deny whomever an opportunity to like grow with me. Because yeah, that's my gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah, and that keeps you always remembering, why you're still doing this. Don't forget, because in the face of struggle, if you forget all that there is to be grateful for at this point or at any point within your recovery, like that leaves this big of a gap for active addiction to seep back in. So it's continuing to remind yourself, continuing to be grateful and shining it out to everybody you come in contact with, which is so evident and why I have a lot of admiration for you. Aw. Thanks. Well, we could talk about this for hours, but I appreciate you joining me today and being willing to speak on this topic and how it relates to your own journey with recovery. So, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll catch you next week.